Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
So as you know, it's All Hallows Eve, and so given that it's All Hallows Eve, it's Halloween, let me tell you a little story about the trip I made to the real life Road Atlanta this week 2 years ago. With a little time to kill, I took a left out of the racetrack and headed down Georgia 53 towards Brazelton, and there it was, the Brazelton Town Hall, with a sign out front advertising free tours. And you know, who am I to pass up free, because God knows Apex Racing TV doesn't pay me a whole lot. So as we go in the front door, there's this huge chandelier in the entryway, and I walked on, and I'm following my tour guide for my free tour, and I noticed this young little girl. She's probably around 5-6 years old, and she's standing to the edge of the room just staring at the chandelier. And while I assume her mother tried to get her to follow along on the tour, the girl just continued staring at the ceiling and murmured that she was trying to hear the young boy hanging from the chandelier. And as odd as that is, you know, I took a little double take, and I think her mom was a little concerned. And you know, so mom gathered her daughter up, and they scurried along on the tour, and you know, followed along with us. And I, you know, when the little girl said that, I kind of looked at the tour guide, and the tour guide looked at me. And as we continued on what was after that a very uneventful tour, things seemed to work themselves out. I headed back to the racetrack, headed back to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta for a couple more sprint races that I was announcing. And when I went down to announce the American Road Race of Champions this year, probably not this year, last year, because the original time was 2 years ago that we're talking about. So when I went last November, and it's always this same weekend, it's Halloween weekend, I went back to the town hall, and wouldn't you know it, I went in there, again, free, and the chandelier was gone. And it turns out that the little girl's mother was so concerned, she mentioned to the staff there that what her daughter had heard, you know, about the little boy that was hanging from the chandelier, and wanted her daughter to play. And oddly enough, you know I would have just completely discounted this, but the staff there, they actually brought in some guy who deals with spirits, and turns out the guy set up some recording equipment overnight, and it picked up the voice of a young boy saying, "I just wanted to play, I didn't want to scare her." And that, ladies and gentlemen, probably not all that scary now. Maybe if I had the lights out and we had a little fire, it would be. But that is why now when I go to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, I don't go wandering around. I don't go sightseeing. I go straight to my hotel. And so welcome to a virtual, not haunted Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta for season number 10 of the Ray Esports Racing League, presented by Grassroots Motorsports Magazine and Grass Paddock Motorsports here on a great employer, Apex Racing TV. They pay me just fine, by the way. I'm Greg Ginsburg with Morgan Burkhardt joining me in the commentary booth, along with Josh Wilkie in the virtual production trailer, bringing you all the great views of tonight's action. And tonight, it is week number 7 of 9 here in the Ray Esports Racing League, and we're going to have two 20-minute races on tap for you. First up, going to be the Spec Racer Fords. You can see them right now, about 8 minutes into qualifying, and we're going to talk about them in just a few moments here. And then we're going to follow things up with the always scary fast Spec Miata drivers here. Both Spec Racer Ford and Spec Miata going to have their 5th of 6 races this season. And so might also mention that after watching our touring cars tear things up on the concrete at Sebring last week, we are going to give them a week off, and they'll be joining us next week at that Little Connecticut Bull Ring. So you definitely don't want to miss that. So good evening, Morgan, and welcome back to Michelin Raceway, a track that has a penchant for scaring even the most confident of racers, particularly at a place like this, right on turn number 5.
Yeah, no, even if it weren't Halloween, I think I'd still be a little bit scared coming to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta tonight. It's like you said, very scary racetrack. It's what I like to call a big boy track.
It is.
Over the years, it's changed a little bit as we're coming down the long back straight into the chicane that is there now. That did not used to be there. That used to be Gravity Cavity. It was a very long straightaway up into the corner under the bridge, and it cut out a lot of drivers in its time. But the elevation here, the way that the corners are shaped, make this track a very difficult one indeed.
That's right. Imagine that drop down into the cavity right there, no chicane, and then just going almost straight right back up to the bridge. Morgan, there's a great video from many years ago of somebody both you and I know, Randy Canfield, many-time H Production SCCA National Championship winner, as he came under the cavity in his Bug-Eye Sprite, started barrel rolling down the hill with his hands waving through the air. Now, talk about scary. That was certainly it. But there are a lot of places on this track. This is really one of those old school tracks. It only opened up in 1970, but you've got the concrete walls close by. You don't have a lot of runoff room, and even the curbing here at Road Atlanta will really unsettle a car, make it very difficult as you go through some of these corners here. But as we're on board right now watching with Miles Crabb, who we've had in the commentary booth with us for a number of interviews this season. He is currently your provisional pole sitter with a qualifying time of 133.02, almost a 133 flat. That is 1.3 seconds clear of Megan Overstreet in the 044 car, and we can see we're tracking their times right now. There's Megan coming down the hill, and looks like she's going to call off the lap that she was on.
And as we're seeing all these times come across in qualifying, this is another kind of technical aspect of this track that I wanted to talk about. It's a bit of a half and half track, really. You're going to see a lot of accordion effect once we get to the races here tonight, but the first half of the track is so unbelievably technical, and the transitions never really stop until you get out of turn 5. So if somebody's really quick through there, they can end up gapping themselves a little bit from the field. But then as soon as you come out of turn 5 into 6 and 7, that gap suddenly shrinks and it's back to the pack. But if we can here, I'd like to ride on board with Jameson Huffman to show you guys around a lap of Road Atlanta. So we're coming down the front straight. You got the new pits on your right, old pits on your left. We use the pit out to go floating into turn 1. It's about 90 miles an hour, mid-90s through the corners, using that uphill to kind of really catch the car and exit. Blind entry into turn 3, just gonna skip right over the curbs.
And you can see how much that apex curbing has gotten torn up over the years.
Yep, you do. And coming down the hill, very hard to get right in these cars, using the curbs to your advantage, and then just slinging the car into turn 5. A little bit wide from Jameson, but ends up keeping it out of the wall, thankfully. But that's a perfect example of what can happen if you miss the mark by just a little bit. And then coming down into turn 6, very banked. It's almost as fast as turn 1, and then hard on the brakes for the most important corner on this track, throwing the car in, making sure you get to the throttle early, because the race is usually won or lost down this back straight here. I've seen so many things happen. I've seen cars get passed and then repassed in the draft, so getting a good run out of that corner, get to the throttle early is the most important thing you can do. If you do nothing else right, do turn 7 right here. That's what I've learned over the years. And then down the hill into the cavity into 10A, gonna really abuse the track limits here, just cutting that corner nicely, opening up the track, bouncing back over these rumble strips, opening up the corner nicely, cutting back under the bridge, and kind of straight line it, opening up the final corner and carrying a run onto the front straight here. But that is a pretty tidy lap of Road Atlanta.
Yeah, a little off track there over on the exit of turn 5. Not, notwithstanding a good lap there from Jamison Huffman. And Jamison early on in this session was sitting up right at the top of the leaderboard. He is currently your 8th fastest driver on track. And here real quick, Morgan, as we have just about a minute and a half, actually about a minute and a quarter left to go in this qualifying session, let's take a quick look back last week at Sebring, where our Spec Racer 4 drivers had their 4th race of the season. Ethan O-Ring started on 6th on the grid, started on the 3rd row, but took the win by almost 3 seconds over John Vogel. Miles Crabb, our provisional pole sitter at the moment, finished in 3rd. And then what a run from Jamison Huffman, who started 18th in the field in the PRG Spec Racer Ford. He finished 4th just off the podium, with Overstreet finishing 5th. And I should also mention Tyler Brackenberry, who is currently our 4th fastest qualifier at the moment. Last week at Sebring, his very first race with the Esports Racing League, he started 10th. He finished 6th. And so Josh has put the points up there on the screen, and you can see how tight it is up at the top between Miles Crabb and Megan Overstreet. Only 4 points separating them, and then another 20 points back to Josh Justice. Some guy named Morgan Burkhardt is currently sitting 4th in the points, with Ethan O-Ring sitting in 5th. I'm sure we'll probably see a couple of folks move up past Morgan here tonight. But battle on now. Is tonight is the 5th out of 6 races in Spec Racer Ford, with Megan Overstreet just really right within shooting distance of Crabb. As we're now taking a look at that guy, Josh Justice, Spec Racer Ford driver in real life, and the clock has just hit 15. So this is going to be his last flying lap, and he's looking to get out of 11th position there. Now you'll notice also, as you look at our timing tower on the left-hand side, there are 2 Jay Huffmans. That is not a mistake for those of you, and although that might have been a mistake for Josh Justice, as he goes wide, as you said, Morgan, probably the most crucial corner here, and ends up putting the car in the dirt, essentially calling off his last flying lap. But 8th and 9th, Jamison Huffman, Justin Huffman, son and father, and they will be lining up not on the same row, but in very close proximity when we go out. As we've got Jamison Huffman now working his final lap. He's on the back straight, and we'll see if he can get out of 8th position. What were you saying, Morgan, before we went on air about Jamison, that either he was going to bin it on the first lap, or he's going to bin it on the last lap?
Well, it's a saying that we've got, and it's about send it or bend it. It's a good way of describing it. So
well, there you go. He bends it at the end of qualifying.
Yeah, he's going to be one to watch for sure. He's a very respectful driver, and I think he'll be making some moves pretty early on. But with the draft being as powerful as it is, this race is always an absolute barnstormer.
Yeah, absolutely. And going down, you mentioned on the back straight here, the long back straight. This track only about 2.5 miles long, but seemingly about a third of it is the back straight here at Road Atlanta. And you get a good run out of turn 7. You stay tucked underneath the car right in front of you, and I mean, it is not uncommon to see 3 cars wide going down into the start of that chicane down in the 10A, and it always makes for an amazing finish here. All right, so we've got, speaking of finishing, we've got our last drivers wrapping up the qualifying session. We just had Megan Overstreet there coming up towards the bridge and finished up the session. We're going to have our drivers start to grid up now. So why don't we run down the starting order for tonight's first of 2 20-minute races. Starting on the grid, on the pole, driving the number 131 machine with a qualifying time of 132.302. It's Miles Crabb, about 0.4 of a second back from there. Megan Overstreet in the 044 machine, the purple and pink machine. She'll be starting to his left. Oliver Piatek is going to start third tonight, with Tyler Brackenberry working his way up to fourth. John Vogel, last week's second place finisher, will start on the inside of row number 3 with Ethan O-Ring starting to his left. Then we've got Skip Brock Jr. and Jamison Huffman. They'll make up row number 4 starting 7th and 8th. Justin Huffman will start 9th tonight, with Corey Heffron starting in 10th. Then Josh Justice and Trenton Kramer will start 11th and 12th tonight. And then we move over to Lucky 13. It's Stevie Ray, the Ray in Race Esports Racing. He's driving the number 11 car, with Stephen Blethen, another real-life racer, starting next to him in 14th position. Your 8th row is going to be made up of Jeremy Shepard and Wayne Buttermore. And, Morgan, although they're not on the same row, they're still only one position apart. We know wherever Wayne Buttermore is, Joaquin Effinger cannot be far behind or, far ahead. Joaquin Effinger starting 17th in the number 700 car, and Murphy Nichols driving the number 5 machine. He did not put in a qualifying time. He's going to start Taylor and Charlie 18th in the field.
Yeah, this is, I'd like to point out that I think it was from 4th to 8th was about 1/10 of a second. 2nd to 3rd was separated by 100th. And wow, there were many different groups of 3, 4, 5 cars that were all separated by 1/10 or 2. So this will be a big pack race, and so many drivers are within the same kind of time bracket. If they can all kind of work together and maybe follow the front pack, then we might end up getting lucky for us and have a 9 or 10 car pack for the lead here.
Wow. So Morgan, we know, and obviously I think this will be a talking point at the beginning of the Miata race coming up, is obviously with them that they are very loose under early on in a race with cold tires. And you mentioned that the first number of corners here, basically until you get to turn 5, your hands are always moving, and it's very easy to get behind the car. What is that opening lap like here at Michelin Raceway in a Spec Racer Ford?
It's a bit of the opposite in Spec Racer. We've got a pretty cool track here. It's about 88 degrees, so it's not going to melt the tires too much. But the other thing is, it's not going to heat them up all that much on the pace lap and on lap 1. The Spec Racer in the sim inherently understeers a little bit, so it's the other side of the Spec Miata. The Spec Miata is going to tend to oversteer. The Spec Racer is going to do the opposite and kind of plow a little bit. So, lap 1 is going to be trying to make the corner, turn the wheel pretty early, and just kind of hope that you end up getting some bite and can actually make it to the apex.
Okay. Gotcha. And so and probably that's also that little bit of understeer probably going to make things, well, I was going to say, as you come down through the S's, probably until you get to turn 4, till the last part of the S's, that if the car is starting to push wide, obviously it might be difficult for you to get the car set up for turn 5. But, much like driving a front wheel drive car, when these things come from the factory, understeer is safe. So, we'll see how the drivers handle it as our pace car brings Miles Crabb and Megan Overstreet down the hill, down to turn 12. Pace car is on the pit lane, and green flag is in the air. And the inside lane there with Miles Crabb. Great start for Crabb. He moves right across Megan Overstreet. And we've got Oliver Piatek in that green and black machine. What a run for him. Not only did he overtake Overstreet, but he overtook our pole sitter, and he's going to lead the field up the hill going towards turn number 3. And we do have a couple cars off. That is John Vogel in the black number 4. I think Jeremy Shepard in the number 70 as well got caught up in that, and that is You know, that's I think not so much an issue with cold tires. That's just maybe cold brain, Morgan.
Yeah, it looked like 3 into 1, especially in turn 3, does not really work. But the good thing is the whole pack is pretty much still together. John Vogel is still going to be in the back. He's still going to get some drafts, so he's not completely down and out, but he's definitely got a whole lot of work to do. And like you said, Piatek got a monster start and is into the lead. Looks like Miles Crabbe is just going to kind of run up into the back of him, try and push away, make this race a 2 or 3 car battle. As we're like 3 or 4 wide up in the background coming up the hill. But Miles Crabbe said, I'm having enough of pushing already, and is going to try and go for the move into 10A. Piatek slots back in, and Miles kind of thought better of that move before it even happened. But definitely a little 3-car breakaway. Jameson Hoffman has made it up into 4 spots on the opening lap, so a very good lap 1 from him. But this pack is it's starting to separate out a little bit. Everybody's in draft, but they're not really bumping.
Nope, not yet. And you can see there we've got the top 7. It looks like all in a row. And your hard charger so far, there he is to the inside there in the white number 5, Murphy Nichols, who started at the tail end of the field. He makes up 9 positions on the opening lap. Oh, Josh Justice runs wide on the exit of turn 1. He's going to lose a couple positions. He's going to fall back behind Wayne Buttermore and Stevie Ray, who had also lost a couple positions on that opening lap. Notice that looks like John Vogel's still sitting a little bit further back in the field. And let's see, who is that now? Dropping down
even
to
Blessing,
the
it
back.
looked like.
Yeah, I think that is the 50. Was it the 50 or 51 car of Blethen dropping back towards the back of the field? Pardon me, the 150 car.
Yeah, it looked like he kind of just went straight into turn 3 and is now going slower. It might have a slowdown penalty. It's a bit weird, but Joaquin Effinger still soldiering on without a front clip on this car. You get to see all of the suspension and the front end of this car going to work, but definitely a hectic lap 1 here, as we're going to see Piatek try and go back to the lead on Miles Crabbe. Miles had passed him earlier on in this lap. Piatek down to the inside going into 10A. Miles is going to fight him on the brakes, and they're going to go side by side through 10A. Miles slots in Megan right behind, so they are still a threesome at the front. But all of this is kind of compressing this back a little bit. Jameson Hoffman is bringing in. It's Tyler Brackenbury is running up into 5th. He had our first race with us last week, but he's still kind of there. He's got a whiff of the draft, but if we keep fighting like this, Piatek's going to go defensive. Miles deep on the brakes into turn 1. Is he going to be able to make that stick?
Oh, no. He's hanging on for dear life, and he's going to lose a position now to, looks like he's going to lose a position to Jameson Huffman, who got a heck of a run out of turn number 1. Huffman now, who started in 8th position, works his way up to 2nd, gets around Megan Overstreet on the run up the hill as well. So lots of big changes there as we've got somebody running through the grass, and I think that was Brackenbury in the 281 machine that went for a little rundown trying to straight line the downhill S's.
Exactly, but yeah, Jameson Huffman is your new 2nd place position sitter. That was awkward. Piatek drops a couple tires out of 7. Jameson's just gonna go for the move right away, stealing that side draft. A little bit of side-by-side contact there, and gonna break the side draft. Gonna punch huge holes in the air. Piatek still kind of there.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, and notice how the Overstreet and it looked like also Crabbe, they picked their man pretty early as they all stayed behind the 89 of Huffman, rather than maybe moving to the inside on Piatek. Is Huffman just pushing his way through down at 10B at the second part of that chicane and carries a ton of speed down the hill. And you know, Morgan, I was going to say probably, and I don't, well, other than, you know, I think you were probably too young to notice at the time. Have you been to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta since 2007?
No, I have not.
Yeah, didn't think so. So probably one of the, and talk about scary. There goes Stevie Ray going wide at turn 12. Probably one of the scariest things about this track, certainly when you run your first laps at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, is coming underneath that Fox Factory Bridge and going down through turn 12, and you know, trying to force your right foot to just push the accelerator all the way down is problematic for maybe the first 2 or 3 laps. But the scariest thing about Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta is when you first come in the gate, because the very first thing that you see is turn 12 staring at you. And you know, you look at it counter race, and it's about 3-4 stories up, and a pretty sharp run up. It's it's not quite as tall as say Big Red Turn 1 at Coda, but again it is very intimidating, and there are so many things about this track that are, as we're watching right now, Murphy Nichols and Skip Brock Jr. At least we were, and that was the battle for 9th. As I think Brock has gotten around, but this battle at the front, look at this, as Piatek sticking to the outside, and now Megan Overstreet, she's starting to put her money on the 14 car, at least for a moment, and Piatek runs wide over the curbing. He's going to lose a lot of speed coming under the hill and going towards turn 10. That's going to allow Justin Huffman and as well as Tyler Brackenberry to pull up to the back of our former leader Piatek, but now Megan Overstreet, she's got the point going in the 1.
Yeah, Overstreet back into the lead, and it's a new leader for tonight. We're gonna see how she's gonna play being in the clean air. But what was a 3-4 car pack is now 6. So it's been a little bit more complicated. You added a couple variables. We're gonna see how they play. I have no inclination that anybody's going to be working with anybody else.
No.
But like we saw with the Justin Huffman and Brackenbury were able to catch up to the 4 pack at the front. Trenton Kramer's only 2 seconds back, and Ethan Oring is only 1 second back from Trenton. So the more they fight, the more people are going to be brought in, as Ethan Oring is probably one of the fastest cars on the track right now. Just in the last lap and a half alone, he's gained 9/10 on the leader.
Yeah, he is running a considerably faster pace than Huffman or Crabb. Not so much Overstreet now sitting in the lead here, but as we watch now 223 of Justin Huffman, who started off in 9th position, he's now up into the top 5 as well. And every time the top 4 fan out like this, Morgan, puts a big hole in the air for the 233 to draft up.
Exactly. 1 car is good, 2 cars pushing is good, but 2 cars side by side makes the hole really big, so you don't have to be precise at all. You can just kind of go behind him. But Piatek coming underneath Megan Overstreet, coming under that Fox Factory bridge, will retake the 3rd spot. Huffman is your leader, followed by Miles Crabb, and a little bit of a gap now as they went side by side into turn 10. But I'm pretty surprised they've been able to fan out 4, almost 5 wide going into there a few laps in a row, and they're nailing the dance really well. Nobody's really made contact. There's been, actually, I really shouldn't say this now, but they've played really nicely together so far. Cross my fingers, knock on wood, whatever helps. But right. Into 10, they're doing the dance pretty well.
Yeah, definitely are. They've been very respectful of one another, and oddly, even though he said that O-Ring is one of the fastest drivers out on track right now, he's only 0.08 of a second off of what our leaders are running. He and Trenton Kramer, they haven't been able to close the gap down. Since we had John Vogel go off on lap number 1, that 7th and 8th position has been kind of the dividing line. And those two, just even as they've been working in pretty close proximity and haven't seemed to be fighting all that much, they just haven't been able to close up a little bit. Although it does look like Skip Brock and Murphy Nichols and Corey Heffron now carrying a little bit more pace, I think, than the two blue cars ahead of them as they come down on the braking down into 10A.
Yeah, and that's what the draft will get you if you're going to be pushing down straights and making sure that you're making the most out of every bit of momentum that you can get out of your pack. You're going to be a little bit faster. So if all 5 of these cars can get together and start pushing and maybe make that pack really big, 5 cars are going to go faster than 3, are going to go faster than 1. So the more the merrier, really. And if they can all get together and work together nicely, then they might be able to draft back up to the top 6. But
yeah,
Piatek. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and I think the key is that they take a very different strategy than what the top 5 are doing, and not battle at every single corner and not go 2 and 3 wide down into 10A, because there's still a lot of time. We've only now hit the halfway mark, as we've got just about 10 minutes remaining in our first 20-minute race of the night. And just as I say that, and I think you were about to say it, Morgan, is Piatek just set the fastest lap of the race.
Yep, and in doing so has taken the 2nd spot, and we're gonna see round number 7, I guess you would say, round number 7, yes, going into turn 10A. Miles Crabb Going to be pushing. Piatek's going to look down to the inside, going into 10A. Miles is he's going to just sit on this run. Piatek way down to the inside, deep on the brakes. Huffman going to try and ramp the outside, is able to get the
there's
overlap.
contact.
A little bit of contact there for sure, yeah, but Huffman is able to retain the spot. Piatek kind of hung out to dry there a little bit, goes back to fourth.
Yes, as he had the rear end come out on the car, definitely lost, didn't get a good dig out of 10B with that little bit of contact with Huffman. You know, but you could see the effect of the draft there as they came down into turn one, and he had to get on the brakes quite a bit earlier than the two drivers up ahead.
Yeah, it's the thing that you got to get used to with these cars. The racecraft is very different. When you're running laps on your own, you can go down and just pick a number, break at the 100-meter board. But when you're going in the draft, you're going to be ended up getting to the 100-meter board 5 or 6 miles an hour faster. So suddenly your braking zone becomes a little bit longer, and that's also what can contribute. Wow. Okay. Yeah, contribute to the bit of an accordion effect that we're going to see going into braking zones.
All right, here we go. And, you know, we saw there as Piatek carried so much more speed than Overstreet through turn 5, just not really anything that he could do with it. He was already right tucked underneath the back of the 044 machine, and really lost whatever momentum he had coming into turn 6. Is now, once again, not a big surprise, we've got Huffman and Crab side by side, with Huffman to the outside, Crab to driver's left, and and we saw there where Huffman got very loose coming through 10B, and unfortunately, well, maybe fortunately for him, there was Miles Crab there who to absorb some of the impact there, but that's going to drop Huffman now down back into 10th position. And Miles Crab not hurt all that much. He lost a little bit of ground on our lead pair, however, and it's for the moment now looking like a 2-horse race, Morgan, up at the front.
Yeah, no, it's a bit of an unfortunate incident there. Miles didn't really have anywhere to go. Huffman again getting very loose going through turn 3. It's a good save by him, but that car does not look very happy tonight. So the pack's been shuffled up a little bit, but that gap between our leaders, our lead 3 now, and Justin Huffman, Ethan Oring, and Tyler Brackenbury is now down to 3 seconds.
Yeah, I was going to say they now are definitely closing things up on Miles Crab, as Crab obviously did not get a good run down the hill and onto the front straight, as he lost a lot of momentum as Jamison Huffman had gotten into him. As we watch right now, this is the group running 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. This is Skip Brock, Trenton Kramer, Murphy Nichols, and then Jamison Huffman as well, as they now split 2 by 2. And look, Jamison Huffman trying to see if there's enough room to go between Murphy Nichols and Skip Brock, and there wasn't, but he's going to get past all of them. Skip Brock, though, maybe a little, what do you think, maybe a little late on the brake release there, as he has the rear end come around on him going into 10A.
Yeah, maybe a little too much rear brake bias is unfortunate, but nobody really caught up in that incident other than Skip, and I think Trenton Kramer. Oh, Trenton Kramer has returned to the pit lane. I take that back. But as we're seeing, Piatek and Overstreet, they went side by side down the hill into 10A, side by side down the front straight and into turn 1. Overstreet's going to retake the lead. Piatek back into 2nd, and Miles into 3rd. And while we've been talking, that gap is now 2 seconds. So it is almost within drafting range.
Yeah, exactly. And so Crab, after the incident on the previous lap, had fallen almost 2 seconds back from Overstreet and Piatek, and you saw there it only took a single lap for him to be able to draft right back up to the leaders. And yeah, not that far behind. Ethan O-Ring now started 6th. He's now in 4th position. You said it, Morgan, and it's down to 1.4 seconds, and seemingly well, now as they came out of turn 7 up to 1.9, but seemingly compressing down pretty quickly.
Yeah, and since he is towing along more people, we're going to have to table that, as Piatek goes back to the lead. Megan falls back to 3rd. Miles is going to look like he's going to be content to push Piatek, maybe. Yeah, he's going to be pushing Piatek back into the lead. Megan's going to go from the lead down to third just in that stretch of the back straight. But like we were saying, Boring, it not only is catching our lead 3, but he's bringing Brackenberry, who's bringing Huffman, who's bringing Nichols, and who's bringing a little bit of Corey Heffron. So it's a large pack.
Well, we'll see here as we've got 4 minutes left. Might end up being a pretty large party here at the front of the field as things start to wind down, and with these racers doing laps in the minute 30 range or thereabouts, and just completing this lap. We should have this lap and probably 2 more to go here at Michelin Raceway. Again, these races go awfully quickly. Morgan, as we're watching Murphy Nichols now, again, having made up 11 positions. He started 18th. He's now up into 11th, getting a little bit of the tow there from Jamison Huffman. And Skip Brock, who was part of this group just a few moments ago, you know, with that spin at turn 10A, he now has fallen back into 11th position there in the number 68 machine. Back and trouble getting the car turned in there at turn 6, but right back behind Jock Justice and John Vogel. You know, Vogel, who had that early that lap 1 off, has worked his way up to 9th after having fallen all the way back to 18th position.
Yeah, a lot of good comeback drives here in tonight's field, but I gotta wonder about the lead 3, lead 4 that we used to have. They've been fighting all race long, so is tire wear going to come into play here? These guys have been going deep on the brakes, side by side, 3 corners, asking a lot of their machinery. The cars behind, maybe not. They've just kind of been driving around. I mean, they're pushing, but they're not having to brake super deep and really stress the tires of these cars. So tire wear might come into play. If O-Ring can get to this lead 3 before the end of this race, he might have a little something up his sleeve.
So do you think that might have been what the issue was with Jamison Huffman that we saw there? I mean, other than maybe just having a setup that was a little more loose than some of the other drivers, but just given how he was attacking early on, that he might have run the rear tires off a little more quickly than Piatek, Crab, and Overstreet?
That is definitely a possibility. This I've had that happen a couple times in this car, but the other thing is, when you're getting a little bit over these curbs, pushing really hard, it doesn't really forgive a whole lot. The car will get really loose. It'll kind of bottom out, especially in the 10A and 10B, and it'll just kind of go wherever it really pleases. So I think it's also a contributing factor, but didn't help for sure. But it looks like Piatek, Crab, and Overstreet, they've seen that O-Ring is coming, and they're starting to work together and push away.
Yeah, we go that last time by about a quarter of a second faster than O-Ring is here for the last 2 laps. They've more or less stayed in line. Again, as they come down and they're going to cross the stripe, they should have just about, well, they should be getting the white flag this time by, Morgan. Let's take a look. Yep, there you go. Just up in the corner of the screen. There's Barney waving his heart out. Last lap here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta for the Spec Racer Fords, and Oliver Piatek moves to the lead. He's going to lead the field up the hill through turn 2 and then start to make that run down through the S's. And Morgan, I don't know if that is necessarily the move that I would have made. You know, if he's carrying the speed, great. But again, I don't want to be the one having to defend going into 10A or the last lap.
Yeah, this is the whole strategy and racecraft piece that really comes into it at a track like this, when the straight's seemingly a mile long. If I'm Miles Crab, I'm sitting pretty. I'm going to even let off a little bit. I want it to be like a 4 or 5 tenth gap by the time that we come onto this back straight. Piatek runs a little wide, understeers into this corner. He's going to start to serpentine, try and break that draft. Miles Crab got a monster run. He's going to be able to maximize his slingshot and slipstream. It's going to pop out before even halfway down this straight. Miles Crab going to look down to the outside, coming past with a big head of steam. Nothing Piatek could really do about that. He's going to slot back into the draft and maybe launch one down the inside going into 10A. Miles Crab does not go defensive. Piatek goes down the inside. A little bit of contact at the apex, but all good. Megan Overstreet with the big move down to the inside. 3 wide coming down under the Fox Factory Bridge, rubbing fenders a little bit. 3 wide going into turn 12. This can't work.
And Overstreet's going to try to make the run from the inside, and as they cross the line, Miles Crabb, the car right down the center, takes the win. Margin of victory, 25 one-thousandths of a second over Oliver Piatek. Megan Overstreet, she was only 500ths of a second back from there. That was an incredibly close race, 500ths of a second separating all the three drivers on our podium. Ethan O-Ring will come home in 4th. Tyler Brackenberry works his way to 5th. Murphy Nichols started in 18th position. Tail end Charlie makes up 12 positions. He finishes 6th. He's your hard charger. Corey Heffron finishing in 7th. Josh Justice 8th. Skip Rock Jr. will finish 9th. And John Vogel works his way back up to 10th. Scary.
That was a spooky, scary Halloween finish for you. He had two different side-by-side across the line, but a wonderful finish there for a wonderful Spec Racer Ford race.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering there if Overstreet had been able to open up the final corner just a little bit. She was kind of trapped all the way down along the edge of the track, drivers right down the hill, and had to really wrench the car around to get it pointed towards the finish line. If she'd had another foot or two to her left, I'm wondering if she might have been able to make up the ground and take the win. But yeah, very exciting finish there. Morgan, right now we've got sitting in the green room, our winner tonight, and with this win tonight, I think he's going to hold on to our championship lead in Spec Racer Ford, driving the number 131 machine. It's Miles Crabb.
Good evening, Miles. That was insane. You had I want to talk about what's recent in our minds. I want to talk about this last lap. Were you kind of just going to let Oliver just lead the last lap and really just wait until going down into 10A to make your move?
Yeah, that was pretty much the plan. I had not really shown my hand on going into the brakes into 10A. I could drive it down just about to the nearly the second white line, but that would have been ugly if I'd have tried to do that after that many laps. But no, I just we were all taking it easy, so I was hoping everybody didn't have their braking points set for 10A. I hit mine. I saw Oliver Olivier, whatever his name is. Sorry, I haven't raced with him before. Let off the brake. Like he broke before I did, and I got on the brakes and I saw him lift and jump to the inside. And I tried to give him a lane. We hit, I don't know, I had incentive points to give, so I was like, I'm going to give you a lane and nothing else. And, we hit square, everybody survived, came out the other side. I really thought Megan was going to win that. But I guess we all side drafted each other, and yeah, coming to the line, I just kind of got less understeer than everybody and was able to keep a little bit more momentum coming to the line. That was, I've been in so many of those in the past year between the major series and here and everything, that's like the first time it all played exactly how I wanted. Like even when I had the dive bomb you at Watkins Glen, it was a dive bomb. That was fun.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was definitely very enjoyable for us to watch up here in the booth. But before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to say thank you or hello to?
Hi Mom, hi Dad, I think they're watching. Yeah, and thanks y'all for broadcasting, and thanks Steve and everybody in this league that put on such good shows.
Well, we thank you, and we hope that we'll see you in the DMX5 race coming up. But good luck.
Yep, thank you. I'll be there.
Great. Thanks, Miles' mom and dad. We appreciate you joining us. All right, everybody, there you go. Miles Crabb, our winner tonight in Spec Racer Ford, and seeing that everybody else is apparently either a little bit too shy or busy hitting the Halloween candy, maybe putting down those little baby Twix bars or something tonight. Nobody else is sitting in the green room. So Morgan, why I'm calling everybody Brian again. I was doing that at the runoffs. Why don't we take a quick little break, and thanks to our partners and sponsors, and when we come back, one more race this evening. It's Spec Miata here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta on Apex Racing TV. We'll be right back.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Welcome back, everybody, to a virtual Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta for season number 10 of the Ray Esports Racing League. I'm Greg Ginsberg, along with Morgan Burkhardt, and after that wonderful finish that we just had in Spec Racer Ford, we've got one more race on tap, but first we must qualify. It's Spec Miatas out on track right now, and we're just about halfway through our 15-minute qualifying session. We're here early on with 2 flying laps in the books. Jamison Huffman is your provisional pole sitter with a qualifying time of 136.31. Josh Justice currently 14 hundredths of a second back, and then there's Lewis Lockshine, not all that far behind. Lockshine had the fastest opening lap. He is currently sitting third right now, and we're looking at basically 25 hundredths of a second separating our top 3. Jack Murchison, good to see Jack joining us here from the Washington, D.C. area, currently sitting 4th, and then Megan Overstreet 5th, Murphy Nichols 6th here, but again, kind of early on in qualifying. And so, Morgan, let's do this while we've got a little bit of time, and we're going to give these drivers a little bit more of an opportunity to set some laps here. Let's take a look at the standings for the 2 different touring car classes. Our Touring 3 class, which are the Toyota GR86 Cup cars, not here racing this week, but they were at Sebring a week ago, where Caleb Patry had I don't know, probably the antithesis of the finish we just saw in Spec Racer Ford. He pretty much from the drop of the green flag opened up a number of seconds on the rest of the field, and actually had a gap of 10 seconds back to Ethan O-Ring when the checkered flag flew. O-Ring, who started 4th, finished on the second step of the podium, and Kyle Robertson finished in 3rd with Andrew Wozencroft and Jason Nazario finishing 4th and 5th. And Josh has got the points up there for us right now, and there it is. Caleb Patry running away with it at the moment. He has a 22-point advantage over Kyle Robertson. Beans Forster, and by the way, Beans last week, I thought we saw Beans actually in the other car. I'll have to double check that. But Beans there sitting currently just a little bit further back in the championship there, in 3rd with 64 points. All right, so let's take a look at the Jetta TDI Cup cars, where Jamison Huffman took the win. And this was much closer, but this was also a race Morgan, where seemingly the draft was very strong, but once these Jettas stepped out, they just could not get passes done. And the race ended up with our pole sitter with the win, our outside pole sitter second, our third place qualifier third, our fourth place qualifier fourth, and it pretty much went all the way back like that, with the exception of Seth Spolman, who started ninth in the field, worked his way up to seventh. But it was Jameson Huffman with the win, Skip Rock Jr. second, Megan Overstreet third, with Miles Crabb, who we just talked to a moment ago, finishing in fourth, and Reed Shannabrook fifth. And there we go, look, the championship points there. Crabb's finish there back in fourth position didn't hurt his championship run all that much. He's still sitting atop the championship with one win with 84 points, and then things definitely start to get a little closer with Trenton Kramer, who is a B-Spec, a front-wheel drive Mini Cooper racer in real life, and Seth Spolman there battling it out for third. And Megan Overstreet only a couple points back from there, with Jake Schilling and Wayne Buttermore pretty close behind. But finally, I guess probably now as we take a look at that action, and might be a good idea for us to throw the timing tower back up on the screen as we're 10 minutes into qualifying. Jameson Huffman still your provisional pole sitter in the number 89 machine, qualifying time of a 1:35.38. And he has currently about 4/10 of a second on Ethan O-Ring. Oliver Piatek right off of that second place finish in the Spec Racer Fords. He's now up to third in the number 7 machine. And then there is Miles Crabb, who was our winner just a few moments ago in Spec Racer Ford. He is currently your 4th fastest driver on track. If we take a look to the last time the Spec Racer Fords raced, or probably the Spec Miatas race, that was actually 2 weeks ago at the Circuit of the Americas, and Jameson Huffman took the win there as well, with Miles Crabb finishing second. Beans Forster, and this is the race I was thinking about. Forster, who started 18th in the field, Morgan at Coda, finished on the final step of the podium, finished third, with John Vogel fourth. Murphy Nichols, who started off on the outside of the front row, finishing in 5th. And then Trent Kramer was just a little bit further back from there, and throwing up the points now in Spec Miata. Let me shuffle some papers, because I've got nothing but papers here. It is pretty darn close up at the front, with Miles Crabb 65 points in the championship. Lewis Lockshine, who is currently our 7th fastest driver on track right now in qualifying. He is sitting second in the championship with 62 points, and then Trenton Kramer with 60 points. And Kramer is currently, Kramer has not been able to put in a time. He is currently showing his 16th fastest, but he has not put in a lap that has not been invalidated. So it's going to be a tough race here from Trenton, unless he can get a lap in with only now 2 minutes remaining in qualifying. And should mention, and this is the effect here in Spec Miata, Morgan, because there's some guy named Morgan Burkhardt who has 2 wins this season. He is sitting currently 6th in the championship. Megan Overstreet has a win, but the guys in the top 3, Crabb, Lockshine, and Kramer, have yet to win a race, and yet they're sitting atop the championship.
And that's the other piece of this car, is having to be consistent, because a lot of what happens, if you're going to have an accident, it's either going to be on lap 1 or the final lap, and you don't really have many in between. So just kind of hanging on throughout the first couple of laps with the cold tires, like we talked about a little bit during the Spec Racer Ford race, where the Spec Racer tends to understeer, this car oversteers. So this is the more bitey of the two. So it's a little bit harder to kind of keep hold of the car, make sure it actually is going where you point it. And then towards the end of this race, these cars draft even better than the Spec Racers do, because they don't have a roof. So they disrupts the airflow quite a lot. They end up poking a really big hole, and they have a lot of drag to them. So you'll get a lot of draft with them, and they've got fenders, and they're fairly heavy. So you can beat and bang, rub up against each other, and really use every piece of the car to kind of impose your will on other drivers.
All right, so we're watching now Josh Justice. He's currently your 7th fastest driver here in the session, coming up onto the back of the 52 machine, Corey Heffron, and you can see how much ground Justice makes up under the draft there as they went into the braking zone at turn 10A. Heffron currently your 13th fastest driver, and we'll see here. Last time by, he'd set his personal best, and Heffron improves once again, turns in a 137.10. That allows him to leapfrog John Vogel and move himself up into to 12th position. And Josh Justice there did not improve, but I think a lot of that actually. Let me see. Yeah, no, did not improve. He was almost 3/4 of a second off of his previous fast lap as he was locked in there behind Heffron.
Yeah, it's we talk about it every week, but the benefit of the draft and the not so benefit of the draft, you can gain a lot of time from it, but if you're not super used to being in the tow of other cars, then some of your braking points get a little bit messed up, some of your turn-in points get a little bit messed up, just simply because you can't see where you're going.
Yeah, and I would suspect, Morgan, as opposed to the Spec Racer Fords, where the draft is quite strong, and we see maybe one car or sometimes two cars deep in the draft, tucked in under one another. There's a more wide open view, I guess. With the Spec Racer Fords ahead of you, you've got a very narrow little roll cage over the driver's head as they're sitting in the center of the car. But as you have multiple MX-5s tucked underneath one another and a lot of roll cage there, as we see the checkered flag in the air, and last flying laps here, actually we're at about a minute after the checkered flag had flown. We've got a few drivers on their last flying laps. We'll see if there are any major changes. Doesn't look like it, although no, Stephen Blethen moves up to 11th fastest. He ends up leapfrogging Corey Heffron, and it looks like Megan Overstreet blew a motor and did some other damage there on her last flying lap. But I was gonna say, it's got to be much more difficult with the MX-5s when you're one of those trailing cars in the draft, because you really don't get a great view of the world in front of you. You just kind of have to go on instinct when you need to get on the brakes, and and certainly here in the virtual world, as opposed to real life, you don't necessarily see the driver ahead of you maybe lifting his arm to let you know that you need to back off a little bit into the braking zone.
Yeah, there's only so many windshields you can look through before it just becomes useless and pointless. And like you said, there's a lot of roll cage in the back of these cars when they're open top, so they have to have very, very strong roll cages, as there's nothing else to break the fall if they end up going over. So looking through that on its own is difficult, and we're looking through not only your own dirty windshield but somebody else's dirty windshield.
Yes.
It's not great.
All right, so Morgan, we've got the field starting to head over now to the front straight to get ready for tonight's race. Let's take a look at our starting order. All right, there you go. On the pole tonight in Spec Miata with a qualifying time of 1:35.37. It's going to be Jamison Huffman, 28/100ths of a second clear of Oliver Piatek, starting second tonight. We'll see if he can get the same kind of jump that he got in Spec Racer Fords, because that was an amazing start he had in our first race. Ethan O-Ring is going to start third tonight with Miles Crabb, our winner in race number 1, starting on the outside of row number 2. Skip Brock Jr. will start 5th tonight with Megan Overstreet 6th. Then we've got Josh Justice and Lewis Lockshine starting 7th and 8th. Row number 5 is going to be made up of Murphy Nichols with Jack Murchison. The two DC area drivers will start 9th and 10th. Then we've got Stephen Blethen and Corey Heffron starting 11th and 12th, with John Vogel and Joaquin Effinger making up row number 7. Wayne Buttermore and Trenton Kramer will start 15th and 16th. Joe Camilleri joins us from north of the border. He will start 17th with Rich Green 18th. And Antonio Rice, we'll have to see if he joins us. He did not put a time in qualifying, and he has not brought his car to the grid, nor have Murphy Nichols or Oliver Piatek for that matter. And Murphy Nichols just put a note in the chat that his virtual reality headset died, and so he can't run. And so it looks like Rich Green, Murphy Nichols, Oliver Piatek, and Antonio Rice those 4 drivers not making the grid. All right, so Morgan, real quick, so our drivers are on their pace lap here. Let's talk quickly about tonight's sponsor for our second race. There's their logo up in the top right of the screen. It's Grassroots Motorsports Magazine, the hardcore sports car magazine. Built for the true sports car enthusiasts, Grassroots Motorsports has one mission: to be your personal guide to the sports car world. Whether it's online at grassrootsmotorsports.com, in print or in person, the racers and builders at Grassroots take you behind the scenes and show you how to make your car better. Along the way, they'll give you a taste of everything this hobby has to offer, from 1,000 horsepower track monsters to cool street cars built in driveways. They also maintain a collection of staff-built project cars, because hands-on technical articles aren't typed behind a desk. They're scribbled down in the garage. To not only read but become part of the story, head over to grassrootsmotorsports.com.
This should be a very intriguing race here tonight, Greg. We've got a lot of drivers who are pretty close in pace. We saw Miles Crabb, Oliver Piatek, and Ethan O-Ring all working together during qualifying, so maybe a little bit of an alliance there. I know that Piatek and O-Ring, I believe they've raced go-karts together. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they have raced each other together in the real world. Piatek is a Spec Miata driver with OPM Motorsports, I believe,
That's
as
exactly,
of this year.
Yeah, same as Skip Rock Jr. and we'll see.
Oh.
So it looks like Piatek is going to have to start from the pit lane, so he's going to be kind of starting off on the back foot there, if that is the case. And there he is. He's somewhere down there from the blimp. I can almost see him. He's down there somewhere.
That is a shame. Very big shame. But we're having our drivers come under the Fox Factory Bridge. Miles Crabb is now your new outside pole sitters. We're waiting for the green. Jameson Huffman having control of the field. The green flag is now out. Looks like a pretty even jump. I take that back. Jameson Huffman's able to come over on Miles Crabb before they get to the start-finish line. Very good jump from the left-hand or right-hand side as we're fanning out into turn 1. O-Ring makes a dive down to the inside. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to make that stick, but we are 3 wide back in the middle of the pack. Everybody's made it through pretty well. Huffman is your leader, followed by O-Ring into turn number 3. Everybody looks like to be there making through.
Yeah, and I was going to say that was going to be the one trouble point, I thought, Morgan, going through turn 3. Whether or not people could keep the rear end of the car underneath them is it looks like everybody's going to make it down through the S's. Joe Camilleri in the orange 06, maybe running a little bit wide down there through the S's, but he keeps that thing bottled up. Corey Heffron, though, in the 52 machine, I think he might have had some issues going into turn 5. He drops all the way down to the bottom of the order, and he is now taking the tow back to the pit lane as our leaders come out of turn number 7. Here, and Morgan, as I'm looking at our timing and scoring system, that gives us like a percentage of the lap already completed. Yeah, you come through turn 7 and it's only like 55% of the lap. So half of an entire lap here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta is essentially this back straight, as our leaders Huffman and Ethan O-Ring now come down under braking into turn 1 for the first time. They've got Skip Rock and Miles Crabb directly behind. Wow, look at the correction O-Ring had to dial in there going into the chicane there for the first time.
Yeah, no, a lot of kind of sawing back and forth at the wheel, and that is actually, I'm gonna try and relate this to a real world experience. I had the opportunity to drive one of these cars in the real world just last weekend, and the sim does a very good job of modeling how the car does handle. The steering is incredibly light, which is why you're going to see a whole lot of sawing in the middle part, because you don't really get a lot of feel. Doesn't matter how much you turn the in-game force feedback up, which is how strong the wheel is. Doesn't matter how much you turn that up, it's still not going to be super responsive. And the other piece of that is the last car that we saw, as it inherently understeers a bit, it likes to trail brake. This car, if you trail brake, it's going to try and go around just like that. It's just,
just like Jack Murchison was doing through 5. All right, tell you what, Morgan, we saw that Jack Heffron had some issues on the very first lap here, as we've got Megan Overstreet coming in underneath Murchison going in the 7. Let's take a look and see what happened to the number 52 machine. And we'll watch here. It's the black 52. Did he get maybe a little bit of a tap coming through turn 5? Possibly. But
Possibly, it looked like Trenton Kramer right behind him might have just given him a little bit of a nudge as he was already on edge, bouncing over that curbing coming out of 5.
yeah, and so there it looks like Heffron is done. Piatek did join the fray, but he is so far back at this point, and looks like he is trying to see here. Looks like he actually did not join. Wayne Buttermore has had an issue. He is now in the pits as we're looking at our new leader, looking back from our new leader to our old leader, our pole sitter, Jamison Huffman. Ethan O-Ring leads the field down through down into turn 1 here on the start of lap number 3. Then we've got Skip Brock Jr., then Miles Crabb and Megan Overstreet. Those are your top 5, and then about 5-6 car lengths back till you get to Jack Murchison, as we're looking they're actually sitting in pretty close proximity there. All right, let's take a look here as we've got Wayne Buttermore sitting in the pits. Let's see exactly what happened to the driver of the 73 machine.
Ooh, looks like he's pretty hurt already. Looks like a whole lot of tow in many different corners on this race car. We're gonna see what happened here. Run it back just a little bit, and
this might be a little better as he had a car go off a little bit just ahead of him, coming out of turn 12 as they go into the first corner. Well, that's something I haven't seen before.
I was just about to say the same thing. That could mark that off my bingo card, but
no.
Unfortunate for Wayne Buttermore, but our leaders coming back down into 10A. Huffman going back to the lead. Brock down the inside of Ethan O-Ring. Going to be able to hold it as Ethan O-Ring around the outside of 10A, up the inside of 10B. Skip Brock is going to have to concede that spot. Miles Crabb, the opportunist, is going to be taking up the gap that opened up and is now going to be in the 3rd spot. Skip Brock tried to go for 2nd place, maybe even the lead, and got relegated back to 4th.
No, I've been thinking about this, Morgan, as I look at the curbing as it's profiled coming out of 10B and heading up the hill, and I look back to one of my prior races at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, and you'll notice that exit curbing is more like an FIA type curbing heading up the hill, and it's one of those things where if you run over that curbing many times, and this is something that will never be emulated in the sim, it can very much throw your alignment out at the front of the car, make for a very ill handling and evil handling car at the end of a race. I look back to one of my previous races, actually a qualifying session where it knocked the toe out in the left front of my car by almost 1/4 of an inch. So interesting here that when for example Skip Brock Jr. gets pushed all the way over to the curbing over there, it doesn't really affect the machine all that much. Although again, he did lose a position to Miles Crabb that last time by.
Yeah, and it's the other thing that I've noticed in the real world, watching the real life Mazda MX-5 Cup, is I'm gonna have to table that for a little bit, is Ethan O-Ring coming down the outside, going into 10A on Jamison Huffman. Huffman's going to be able to slot back in line before they even get to the corner. So Ethan O-Ring is going to retake the lead over our pole sitter, Jamison Huffman. But it's like a nice little 6-car pack there, and the point that I was going to talk about. As you saw those cars kind of bouncing through 10A and 10B, that is very much what I like to call a sim line, because in the real world, people do that too often. So there's at least a 6-inch drop off.
I was going to say there's a big, I wouldn't call it a divot, I'd call it more like a culvert there. Yeah, exactly. That the car will typically come bouncing out of. And Burkhardt comes, probably not Burkhardt, Huffman comes right up to the back of O-Ring there under braking going into turn 3. So we've got, Morgan, pretty much the same players up here in the top 5 right now. You know, we had Skip Brock up towards the front early on in the Spec Racer Ford race as well, and they're all taking a very different, playing a very different strategy and a very different game than they did in that first race. We saw them fanning out. We saw them going 2 and 3 wide in the 10A the last time, and they seem to be very content this time to stay in line. And is that primarily because they've got Murchison just kind of not only Murchison but Lockshine and you know, not all that far out of the draft right now?
I think it is in an effort, and as we say that they're playing nice, they're trying to go 3 wide into 10A.
Now they do it,
But,
yeah. Well, we got through 4 laps before they did it.
Yeah. Miles Crab down to the inside. Jamison Huffman running the outside of the corner is going to be able to take the lead over Oring and Crab. Crab got a really good run coming out of 10B. 3 wide into the final quarter. This is a last lap thing, boys. They're going to make it stick.
As Skip Rock Jr. tries to follow O-Ring down the inside and might have loosened up O-Ring there. Oh, and we've got Huffman as the pinball. Oh my gosh.
Wow. And they all stay in line. That was incredibly impressive. 3 wide coming out of the final corner, 3 wide down the front straight. But yeah, I was gonna say that they were gonna try and push away from Murchison and Lockshine, but that kind of went out the window. It's now a 7-car pack for the lead. But we're gonna head back to the battle for 8th position with Stephen Blethyn, Josh Justice hot on his heels with Trenton Kramer right there. Battles all over this track tonight.
Yeah, and not all that far back is actually Piatek, who started from the pit lane. Now just a couple car lengths back behind those 4. And if Trenton Kramer sticks in behind Justice and doesn't try to run them side by side up into turn 7, as we look here, Murchison just ran his fastest lap of the race. Lockshine, both of them in the mid to low 36s. And they're running about 3 to 4 tenths of a second faster than that group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars up ahead of them. And as we watch the top 3 once again fan out coming into 10A, that second pack is we're now just about halfway through this 20-minute race. That second pack as Huffman moves all the way to driver's left, pushes O-Ring all the way to the curbing and to the dirt. And O-Ring's able to gather it back up, but that's not going to stop him from going 3 wide through turn 12 once again. This is getting wild, Morgan.
Back into turn 1, 3 wide. Oh, that was kind of inevitable. Huffman's able to gather it. Skip is able to gather it, but both knocked out of 2nd and 3rd position. They're still in the race. No walls or anything. Just lost a little bit of track time, but now they're back into that 4-car battle for 8th position.
Yeah, and that 4-car battle was carried about 25 miles an hour more than Huffman or Brock were up the hill, and they kind of get bottled up behind them. But you know, I don't want to say now, hey, if they stay in line, they can draft up, but they're not that far out of touch now with the lead group of four, what is now 4 cars, O-Ring Murchison, as Murchison now has worked his way up into 2nd in the 148 machine. He started off in 10th position there, and he is ahead of Megan Overstreet, but O-Ring now with a bit of a gap, at least for the time being, that these drivers are going to have to work the draft to try and get back up to the 62.
Yeah, now is the time where you have to bump draft. You got to stay in line. You got to hit your marks. There's you can't really let O-Ring get too much further out in front, because then you're going to lose the benefit of the draft, and it's that much harder to get it back as Overstreet goes up on Murchison. But we're seeing this pack, Skip Brock, go down the inside of Huffman into 10A, and they all kind of sort it out. But there's so much to watch here tonight.
Yeah, and who would have thought, as I thought everything was just calm and sedate and yeah, that all ended on lap number 5, as we're now working lap number 8 here with just about 8 minutes remaining in our 2nd and final 20-minute race of the evening. And Lockshine running maybe a little wide coming out of turn 1. Taken all of that curbing at the apex of 3, and it's also interesting, Morgan, as I always marvel at how the laser scans were done at these tracks. At turn 3, the apex of 3, in real life there is actually a very large concrete pad to the inside of that apex curb, and that you know, in iRacing you go all 4 wheels to the inside of that apex, and you know, you get a 1x and you get a slowdown penalty possibly, whereas in real life people can pretty much just straight line that bloody thing. And actually helped me out one time. We talked about you can't go 3 wide through turn 3. Well, I was in a race that we had an entire blockade of cars at turn 3, that there was a wreck on the very first lap, and I was able to move to the inside and I think pick up like 8 positions. Anyway, here, let's take a look as our leaders are coming down the hill. Actually, not just our leaders, but our top 10 now are coming down the hill, going into 10A and 10B. And actually, let's make it back to, looks like we've got back to Trent and Kramer in 11th position. They are all, you know, pretty much almost an 11-car train here for the lead. Is Lockshine currently sitting in 5th with Huffman. They're our former leader, and Skip Brock Jr. They're going to go side by side into 1. And
had a huge bounce over the curb there.
Yeah. Is Huffman now trying to get back up to that lead pack with Crab Murchison. Ooh, as Huffman gets very loose coming down the hill.
Still trying to chase it as you get behind the car. It's so hard to get back under control, but he's done it and regains his position and regains control of that car. Is still looking pretty loose, but you see in most of these cars, there's not a whole lot of damage, even though the Jameson was the pinball, Skip was the pinball. There's just some front end damage, but no real huge deficits. Is Skip going to go around the? Oh, wow, Lockshine throwing one down the inside into turn 7, gets a little bit of a knock and.
Yeah, and Piatek was so late on the brakes. I think Piatek had designs on going around the outside of both Skip Brock and Lewis Lockshine, and it just didn't work out for him.
Yeah, but like we see, they're all kind of getting in. Well, I shouldn't really say anything because Justice is going to look down the inside of Lewis Lockshine into turn 10A. Both pretty equal on the brakes. Justice going very deep, able to get the move done on Lou Lockshine. As now, I can say this for now, we're going to be in a single file line through the corner, which is good.
well, partially, unless you look at the top 3.
Yeah.
As we had Overstreet and Murchison side by side. Overstreet manages to hold off the 148 car coming through the final corner. She's now sitting up in 2nd, and they have managed to eliminate the majority of that gap up to Ethan O-Ring now, whereas it was about 1.5 seconds. They've been able to draft back up to our leader.
They were almost out of the range of the draft, but Megan leading Jack Murchison and Miles Crabb have been able to run them down, and a bit off track there in the background for Olivier Piatek and Josh Justice, but all is well. But yeah, if I'm in Ethan's shoes, I'm just gonna go ahead and you can go ahead, Megan. You can go ahead, Jack. I'll sit back in 3rd or 4th here tonight.
Well, I mean, obviously he's shown the pace pretty much from the drop of the green flag here, and without Huffman to contend with. By the way, Piatek just set the fastest lap of the race at a 1:36.73. The problem is that you know, he's still locked in with Justice and Brock and Huffman there, as they've been fighting things out. They haven't really been able to move up and join this lead pack here, as O-Ring gets a little bit defensive coming down the hill just to cover Overstreet there as they came into 10A. But Overstreet, once again, she gets kind of a run down the outside, but maybe a little indecisive there, as she was trying to determine whether or not she should go around the outside of O-Ring, and instead Murchison maybe a little bit more decisive. He ends up taking the space and ends up driving right around the outside of Megan Overstreet. He now moves up to 2nd, as we have only 3.5 minutes remaining here, and with the minute 35s that these racers are running, we've got probably this and 2 more laps.
And you can see this top 4, but in the background you got a nice little Greg face cheesehead car getting ominously closer to the top
around?
4.
Damn it.
It is still around. We got the spec racer Greg here tonight, so
oh god,
still
and a lot of smoke in the air there as Trenton Kramer gets it wrong, and Kramer off into the wall. Let's take a look. I think we've got this queued up already. Thanks, Josh. Josh's got the fast fingers tonight. Let's look at Trent Kramer coming down through the S's there in the black and or probably the white and blue Summit machine. And,
ow.
boom.
Well, that started pretty early too. It looked like he got on that curb, turned it in, and it was still kind of bouncing through the corner. And as soon as he got to that curb, it gripped up and suddenly just kind of went the other way. So very unfortunate, but very good that it's a virtual accident.
Yes, very, very inexpensive incident for Kramer.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Head down the hill. Megan Overstreet gets back around Jack Murchison, but in doing so is now allowed Ethan O-Ring to open up an 0.8 of a second advantage as we're now working the penultimate lap. 2 laps to go here at Michelin Raceway. And now we've got Jamison Huffman. He's caught the back of this lead pack. So has Skip Brock Jr. and Olivier Piatek as well. They are all in that group. And Josh Justice in the 99 machine, he's not that far behind. And so, yeah, here we go. It may not be an 11-car train, but it is an 8-car battle here. Lewis Lockshine a little bit further off. Say that he is probably not going to be able to get up to this lead pack here with a lap and a half remaining. But Megan Overstreet, she is in very good position right now. Great move by Miles Crabb coming into 6.
Yeah, and it looks like Jack Murchison's going to try. Oh, goes very deep into 7. Gets a little bit of a hip check to Miles Crabb. Jamison Huffman's going to split the difference here and go through on the both of them. So he's going to be moved back up into 3rd. Skip Brock Jr. is going to go down the outside. Piatek's going to follow. They're going to go 3 wide pretty much the whole way down the back straight. Jamison Huffman choosing to give draft to Miles Crabb. It's now going to slot back down to 2 wide. Just going to see who's going to come out on top coming down the hill into 10A. Who's pushing who? Jamison Huffman in the lead. Miles Crabb's going to be able to slot into 2nd in this pack. Skip Brock will be in 3rd. Murchison's going to have to slot in behind Piatek. He's going to get the good run coming up the hill under the Fox Factory Bridge and go down the inside of Murchison. Murchison really just got kind of swamped here.
He did. Well, I mean,
Part of the lap.
Yeah, as he went from 3rd now all the way back to 7th position in the course of just a single, just a single lap, but a half a lap. And now Murchison's, he's going to run wide coming out of turn 1. And he manages to now hold off Josh Justice coming up the hill and hold on to that position. But yeah, shuffled back there. I was looking to see if Piatek was going to be able to push Skip Brock Jr. Past Miles Crabb and possibly Huffman as they went down the 10A that last time by. Did not quite have the run there as they fanned out 2 by 2. But now as our leaders are coming down into turn 6, it is no longer a 2-horse race. Jamison Huffman, who is our pole sitter, he's right back up there and takes a quick look to the inside of Megan Overstreet as they come into turn number 7 and come onto the front straight. And I think we might have lost somebody here, Morgan, as there is now a huge gap between Huffman and now Piatek. And so the question is, what happened to Skip Brock Jr.? Looks like he had some issues coming through turn 7.
Yeah, and we're seeing these 3 leaders. Oh, lots of contact between Megan Overstreet and Ethan O-Ring. More contact between Ethan and Jamison as I think they both just got DQ'd actually. Megan
I was going to
Overstreet
say, I think
inherited the lead.
At least one of them, I think, got DQ'd. And either that or it's Halloween and they just went to the Shadow Realm. We got ghosts and everything all in their Halloween costumes here. Well, with a lap to go, but it is Megan Overstreet taking the white flag. That wasn't the white flag. That was the final lap. And so Megan Overstreet takes the win. Olivier Piatek will finish in 2nd. Josh Justice, who started in 7th, works his way all the way up to 3rd. Miles Crabb 4th. Lewis Lockshine 5th. And then Skip Brock Jr. and John Vogel 7th. And so, yeah, what happened to Jamison Huffman and Ethan O-Ring and Jack Murchison, for that matter, is they all just poof disappeared.
If we can, before we start doing interviews, let's take a look back at that final, 3 or 4 corners, and because there was so much happening.
All right,
it just happened at once.
All right, so Josh is going back and trying to see if we can get the system to go back and pull that up here to see exactly what happened. All right, let's take a look here and see what. Well, there's John Vogel.
Interesting. I think since there was, we could see it kind of in the foreground a little bit, but I think so much happened, it kind of gave an overload to the simulator, and so many people got bounced, and a little bit difficult to pin down what exactly happened
clouds.
Yeah. You went into the corner with 9 cars, a bunch of cloud, and you left the corner with 4. So very, very interesting. Kind of a lot of melee kind of just happened going into turn 10. So we're gonna see.
Let's say, here we go. Let's take a look here as
Murchison went down the inside of Crab. I think this was leading up into the final lap. We're gonna see Skip Brock and Oliver push down the back straight. Jameson giving the draft to Miles. Miles then slots back in front of Murchison. Yeah, this is coming down the back straight into turn 10A. Another really just an intense fight, and this is kind of what closed them all up coming on to the final lap. This is
final
the
lap, yeah.
lap.
I was a lap behind. All right, so we're now going to move over and try to take one final look. All right, looks like we're having some issues here with the replay. So yeah, let's do this, Morgan. We've got our winner Megan Overstreet. We've got Lewis Lockshine also sitting in the booth. Lockshine came into tonight's race running second in the championship to Miles Crab. Why don't we bring him in and get his feeling as he moved all the way up into 5th position here on that last lap. Everybody, Lewis Lockshine, driver of the number 124 Mazda Miata.
Good evening, Lou. So much happened in this race. You were kind of in the foreground for most of it. You were drafting behind the lead pack, but really closed up towards the end of this race. Did you really have a strategy going into this, or what was your whole game plan for this event?
My game plan was be at the tail end of the draft and wait for everyone to crash into each other.
That seemed to kind of play out very well for you.
Worked out well.
Kept your nose clean and waited for everybody else to do the racing for you. But ending up,
fantastic.
Yeah, you love it when the gods like you tonight. So actually, I gotta check where you finished. So much just happened. 5th place. That's not bad. Avoiding the melee going into the chicane. A very well done event. Is there anybody you'd like to say hello or thank you to?
Thank you guys for doing the broadcast. I enjoy watching the broadcast after the race, and thanks to Steve Ray for putting the league out. It's awesome.
Thank you very much, and we wholeheartedly agree with you, and we hope to see you next week.
Thanks. Have a good one.
All right, there you go. Lewis Lockshine running second in the championship, and with Miles Crab finished just ahead. We're showing Crab is finishing in 4th, so should not make any changes there in the championship standings. All right, let's bring in our winner tonight in Spec Miata, driving the 044 machine. I'm sure she went in, I guess, in 3rd position. Didn't expect the 2 cars to pretty much just disappear on her. But a great evening nonetheless, both in Spec Racer Ford, where she finished in the top 3, and tonight taking the win in Spec Miata. It's Megan Overstreet.
Hey there.
Good evening, Megan. That was you were able to keep yourself in the top 3 pretty much the entire event, and then with Ethan trying to break the draft on the end of the race with the final lap, you were able to kind of just pick your way through after Jameson and Ethan disappeared. But was it just kind of knives out the whole time?
Pretty much. Gosh, that last lap was so unexpected. Ethan was swerving a whole lot. I got up on his left side, and he ran me to the edge of the track and then bumped me off a little bit, which was, in hindsight, very good considering what happened into the braking zone for the chicane. So after the 2 cars just disappeared on me, I was like, what just happened here? And I cruised to the finish line from there, watching my rearview mirror.
Yeah, no, you were able to kind of pick your way through pretty nicely there. Got, I would say, pretty lucky with everything considered. But a very well-driven race yet again. I believe your second win in the Mazda this season. Looking good for the championship. Do you have a game plan for the rest of the series?
I'm just trying my best not to crash on the first lap. That's usually been my Achilles heel, is spinning out on the first lap in lots of races that I do. So as long as I can do that, I think I can usually get a decent result for the night.
Well, there you go. It's we've been talking about that pretty much all night, about how the car is kind of icy on the first few laps of the race. But with that being said, is there anybody you'd like to say thank you to?
Yeah, thank y'all for doing the broadcast, Stevie for doing the leagues, and our sponsors, and my family for watching. Appreciate it a lot.
Well, there you go. That was Megan Overstreet. We hope to see her again next week. But we got time for one more, Greg? Or actually, everybody has.
I think we're going to go and wrap things up here. But I did just get a word, because we weren't maybe getting the whole story from our timing and scoring system here. It appears that on the last lap, Jameson ended up with 17 incident points. Jack Murchison with 20. Steven with 17, and Josh Justice, who finished up on the third step of the podium tonight, only had 16. So he was pretty close from entering the Shadow Realm himself. So that kind of explains things up at the front. But I want to thank Megan Overstreet, and want to thank everybody else for coming in and talking to us here tonight at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. And I guarantee you, Morgan, that next week things won't be nearly as scary for our drivers, especially, we may see them just go like poof and disappear. And I would have only expected to see that from the driver of the number 5 machine, Murphy Nichols. Of course, he did that. Apparently, his virtual reality headset disappeared before the race. So, but he's the one with the internet problems. But we're going to be heading next week to Lime Rock Park, to the little bull ring, little 1.1 mile or 1.5 mile bull ring up in the Connecticut countryside. We're going to have our Spec Miatas return. They're going to lead things off, and then we're going to wrap the evening up with the touring cars, with our GR86 Cup cars and the Jetta TDI Cup cars. And then we're going to wrap up the regular season in 2 weeks at Barber Motorsports Park. And 3 weeks from then, November 21st, right before Thanksgiving, we're going to have the Ray Esports virtual runoffs at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Just repaved in real life, no such luck in iRacing. It's still going to be as slick as can be here for our iRacers. But let's go and wrap things up. I want to thank you all for joining us here and spending your Halloween with us. And I guess for those of you on the West Coast, you'll still have some time to go out and do a little trick-or-treating here. But thank you again for joining us. I want to thank Morgan Burkhardt. I want to thank Josh Wilkie behind the scenes. And just before we go, wanted to pass along my condolences. Ed Conway, who for many years was known as the voice of then Road Atlanta, then Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. He was the initial PA. He was the original PA announcer at Road Atlanta. His son, Scott Conway, to this day is still on staff there as their PA announcer. Ed unfortunately passed away 2 weeks ago. So I want to give my condolences to the entire Conway family, and may his memory always be a blessing. And so again, everybody, thank you for joining us this week for the Ray Esports Racing League. We'll see you next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a wonderful week, everybody.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.